everyone, it's Derin here. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're a new viewer, welcome to my channel. As you can see by the title, today's video is going to be another revision one because so many of you guys enjoyed the last one which I've posted, which by the way, if you haven't watched already, I'll have linked on the screen here and also in the description box down below. And so I figured that on top of that, and considering the fact that exam season is now upon us, that it only made sense to post today's video, which is going to be how to revise more effectively. I feel like this is a topic which is so important because when it's exam season, it's so easy to convince yourself that you're revising, but then it turns out that you're not actually revising effectively. And so when that happens, you find that you can end up in situations where you're struggling to remember knowledge accurately, or you're struggling with learning information, etc. And so I figured that I put together my top 5 tips to help avoid this and help you revise more effectively. So yeah, that's what today's video is going to be. So yeah, if you're looking forward to today's video, make sure to smash the thumbs up button, and also if you are a new viewer and would like to see more study and revision videos from me, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and click the bell to make sure that your post notifications are on. I've been seeing all of the comments saying that a lot of you guys are taking revision breaks to watch my videos, so I'm going to try and make them as short and concise as possible so I don't take up too much time from your revision. So yeah, I'm going to try my hardest to make this video under 10 minutes. Let's see if I'll do it, but yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so tip number 1 is to ensure that you are actively revising and actually engaging with what you're learning. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the times you can find that you are actually revising but none of the knowledge is going in, and that's because you're actually passively revising. And so key ways in which people passively revise is by reading your textbook and thinking that you're taking in knowledge or perhaps highlighting things, but when you do things like that, you're not actually actively taking in the revision, and a lot of the time when you do that, it's going to be a lot harder to retain information. So when revising, you want to make sure that you are always actively revising and engaging with the content. And so one method which I personally like to implement into my revision to ensure that I am actively revising is an old classic, but I feel like it works perfectly, and that is the closed book method. I'm sure this is a method that you were taught at school a few years ago, but I feel like it's something that everyone's kind of just forgotten. If any of you guys are unaware of this method, it is essentially a method where after learning a topic, you close your textbook or close whatever revision materials that you're revising from, and then get a piece of paper and write down everything that you've remembered from your revision. This is a technique which honestly is amazing and recommend to each and every one of you guys watching this video. It's a great way of testing how much knowledge has actually gone into your head without having a textbook in front of you. So yeah, with this technique, after you've written down everything that you have remembered from the topic, you then go back to open up your textbook and compare your answers with what you've written. When doing this method, depending on how much information you've retained, you'll either get it right, but more often than not, you'll find that there are a couple things that you've missed, which is why it's good to compare because it highlights the gaps in your knowledge. So when establishing the things that you've missed out, you can then focus your energy on those topics and ensuring that you've got those memorized, and then once revising that topic again, you can have another go, and then hopefully this time you would have remembered everything in the topic. And then once you have got everything right, that's when it's time to move on to the next topic. This is a revision technique that I generally find really solid in retaining information and making sure that you're really learning what you're reading, because as I said earlier, it's really easy to go through a topic and just read it through or just highlight some key points and think that you're learning. But I feel like with this closed book method, it actually tests this and is a really great way of highlighting gaps in your knowledge, ensuring that you've actually learned the information, and allows you to make sure that you're truly engaging with your revision and memorizing the information. The next tip in today's video is again something which you may have heard your teachers tell you in the past, but nonetheless it's something which I feel is super effective and sometimes forgotten, and that is actually teaching the content which you've learned. They always say that you only know something until you're able to explain it and teach it to someone else, and I truly believe that that is true. I truly believe that is true. Is that English? I don't know. But yeah, I really stand by that and feel like being able to explain and teach something to someone kind of makes it crystal clear that you've got that information ingrained in your head, but most importantly that you understand it, because if you're able to explain it, then it means you understand it. And a lot of the times with exams, it's not just regurgitating knowledge and memorizing things. You really have to be able to understand the content that you're learning to be able to apply it. So I feel like this is an amazing tip that I strongly recommend each and every one of you guys to do. I remember at school they'd always say teach it to a member of your family, but My family can vouch for this. It's not always realistic / practical to always be talking to someone in your family about what you've learned, and I'm pretty sure they don't want to hear it. So one thing which I used to do was actually record voice notes, and the reason why I find voice notes in particular more effective than teaching someone in my family is because A, the people who I'm teaching what I'm learning more often or not don't actually have any subject knowledge about what I'm talking about. So I could be talking absolute gibberish and they could think that what I'm saying is right. Whereas the thing with voice notes, which I find particularly helpful, is that once you record your voice, you can then play it back and then compare everything that you're saying with your revision materials in front of you, so you can actually like cross-check to see if everything that you're saying makes sense. Yeah, this is why I feel like voice notes are very effective, because it kind of just brings in all of your revision and you can actually check that what you're saying is actually factually correct. Tip number 3 is to do with past papers, because is a revision video really a revision video if you don't talk about past papers? And the answer to that is no. So in my previous revision video, which I'll have linked down below as I mentioned earlier, I go into a lot of detail about how to use past papers effectively, so I won't go too much into that. But on the topic of past papers, what I wanted to mention in this video is that moving on to past papers as quickly as possible in your revision timetable is genuinely the most beneficial thing that you can do. I find that a lot of the time we focus on making our notes look super good and making everything look aesthetically pleasing. I would say don't focus too much time on making your notes the most aesthetically pleasing thing in the world. Writing up your notes shouldn't be something which takes up a massive part of your revision timetable, because honestly, notes are just a way of you getting information down at the end of the day. As long as they're clear and as long as they're concise, that's all that matters. The most key thing for exams is getting questions done, getting those past papers done, and actually getting practice, because ultimately you can have the prettiest notes in the world, but if you haven't practiced your exam technique correctly, those notes aren't going to get you those grades. Tip number 4 is to do with the overall space in which you are revising. The tips which I'm about to tell you are something which I was like, do I even need to include in this video? But it's something which is just good to hear regardless, just reiterate it. Essentially, just make sure that the space which you're working in is clear. When Jack Edwards and I did the BBC bite-sized series, I remember one of his lines was, "A clear space is a clear mind," and I remember that so well because we had to like reshoot that scene like 8 or 9 times. But yeah, it's definitely ingrained in my head, and I'm gonna try and ingrain it into your head. I find that whenever my desk or my room in general is messy, it definitely just kind of causes disorder, and that's not what you want when you're revising and trying to focus. If you find that you're unable to focus well in your bedroom or in your house in general, then I recommend going to a library. One thing I have to say about libraries though, do not tell any of your friends that you're going to the library, because more often than not, they'll want to come to the library with you. I'm pretty sure if you talk to anyone, we've all experienced a situation where you've gone to the library with your friend and just had an overall unproductive study session. So yeah, one thing I'd say is if you are going to go to the library, just move in silence. Don't post it on your Snapchat. Just kind of do your own thing and have a nice solo study session. It honestly goes such a long way. Next tip on how to revise effectively for exams is to actually form a study group. Oh, my camera battery's flashing red. Okay, right, this is my last tip anyway. It's gonna sound quite contradicting to my previous tip, but with study groups, I find that they're only really effective either on the day of your exam or a couple days before in the lead up, because they are a great way of getting together with people who are taking your subject and just going through the entire syllabus from start to finish. The reason why I strongly recommend study groups is that when going through the syllabus, it gives anyone in the group an opportunity to bring forward any concerns or any weaknesses that they have in that area, and more often than not, you'll find that someone else in that group is able to contribute something which is really helpful, because that for them may be their strong point. Study groups are a great opportunity to also share different ways that you guys memorize things. So because everyone learns differently and everyone has their own ways of doing things, I found that especially with science subjects where you had to learn a cycle, for example, when we would eventually reach that topic, when we go through the syllabus, a lot of the times everyone would contribute the ways in which they were learning it, and a lot of times you might find that one of your classmates' way of learning it may be a slightly easier way than what you're already doing. Okay, so my camera actually died. That's fun. My angle's probably a bit different, but in summary, it's super productive, super efficient, and just a great thing to do before your exam. So yeah, those are actually all of my tips for today's video on how to revise more effectively. I really hope you guys found this video helpful. I tried my best to pick tips which, you know, aren't just the basic ones you can find on Google. So yeah, if you did find today's video helpful, I'd really appreciate if you can let me know in the comments down below and by hitting the thumbs up button. As I mentioned at the start of today's video, if you are a new viewer and would like to see more study/review revision content from me, or if you haven't already checked out my previous one. Firstly, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, and secondly, make sure to go through my description box where I link down below all of my study and revision tips videos. But yeah, that is actually the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys all in my next one. Bye!